Drawing the human head is probably one of the most challenging things any artist will ever have to do. But there are a number of things that we can practice and that we can do to approach it in a way that makes things a lot simpler. So the first thing that I think is very important to be able to master is going to be the shape of the head. So we need to be good at drawing circles. So that seems silly, but it's going to be one of the first thing that we need to really be able to do to be able to draw proper heads. So not only circles, but ovals as well. So the main shape of the head is going to be a ball. So that's always the way we're going to start. We don't start with a square. We don't start with a cone. We always start with a ball. It's one of the simplest shapes that we can create, but to draw it freehand, it's a little bit complicated, a little bit tricky. You know, if you're really struggling with drawing spheres, is try to have the same distance, you know, horizontally and vertically. You know, this is not gonna cut it. You know, that's not good either. We don't want an oval. We want something that's circular. Of course, with Photoshop, you can always go ahead and create an ellipse and hold Shift to draw a perfect circle, and then go in edit mode, stroke, and then, you know, decide of the width in pixels and the color, and then hit OK. So this is one way to do it, but I would highly recommend that you just practice drawing spheres like this. When you draw a sphere, use your elbow, don't use your wrist. It's a lot easier to move the entire arm than it is to move your wrist, and you'll get better result this way. There we go. So this is going to be the first thing that you'll ever put down on paper when it comes to time to draw a head. Another part for the jaw. And then the jaw is going to be kind of a complex box, and it will look something like this. So this is going to be kind of the box that we attach to the sphere. So I'll explain how to build this later, but essentially those are the two pieces that we'll be working with. But the first thing that we have right here is a sphere, and then what we'll want to do is we'll want to chop the sides as if it was, you know, as if this is an orange, and you cut the sides like this, so that you're only left with kind of like the center portion like this. And you can imagine this would be the nose right here, right? Okay, so we're chopping the sides of the head. So to do this, we're going to draw a big oval like this. So something like that. So it's going to be centered in the sphere. And also it's going to be at a particular size in comparison to the entire sphere. And that size is going to be 2/3 of the entire head. So let's say we have thirds like this, 1/3, another third. If we take this distance here, so those 2/3 right here, this is going to be the size of this oval that we just drew. So this would be it. So maybe this one's a little bit too small. And then, of course, on the other side, we wouldn't be able to see it. So much like the body, the head can be split in easy to remember ratios. And this is going to be the first exercise that you have to practice. So it's going to be not only this one, but also we're going to split the sphere in half right down the center. So this is going to be the symmetry line for our face. So that would be something like this. And the line that I'm using right now, and you can actually start with this line if this is easier for you for some reason. So you can start with a symmetry line, the one that cuts the sphere right down the center, and then you can use that line as a guide to draw the ovals on the side. And something that you can look at right now is that the direction of this curve here is going to be very similar to this one. It's actually going to be parallel to this one. So if we were to look at it from the top here, it's parallel like this. Well, it's not actually parallel, but for the sake of simplicity right now, for the first step, let's consider that it is, because in reality, if we look at a head from the top view, it's going to actually be like this instead. So this is a little bit exaggerated, but you have the nose right here and the eyes, and a real head is going to have this shape. It's not going to be like this one where all those sides are parallel. But for now, let's not worry about that. Let's practice drawing this here, and for most angles, this is actually going to work quite well. It's only when we look at a face from the top a head from the top or from the front, that we will want to take these angles here in consideration. So for now, this is going to be the first exercise, like I said. So we want to practice doing this hundreds of times. So we need to get really, really good at drawing this. So once we have that, there's one more line that we want to add in here to really understand where this head is looking. So in what direction the head is looking. And it's going to be a horizontal line. And this is going to represent the eyebrows. So depending on how we slice it, it's going to change the orientation of the head as a whole. So instead, if we have it like this, then the head is going to look up, or seem like it's looking up. If it's completely straight, then it'll seem like the head is just looking like straight ahead. Or we can have even angles that are really, really intense, and now it'll seem like the head is looking down. Then you would have your eyes right here below. So this is the thing that you really need to practice, and then this is going to make everything else a lot simpler afterwards. So depending on how round these are. So let's say, if you look at it from the front, then maybe they'll be really, really narrow in this case. The sphere, the oval right here, will appear to be really, really narrow, as opposed to somebody that might be looking sideways, where it'll appear much more round. So maybe something like this instead. You can imagine here, this would be the eyebrows right here. And then you would have the nose. So in this case, the head is looking sideways. In this case, the head is looking kind of up. And in this case, maybe the head is looking down. So again, this is a really important exercise. Try to always, a couple things to look for when doing this. Make sure that the size of the oval on the side is correct. Make sure that it's 2/3 of the total height of the sphere. Also make sure that it is round, that it follows the curve of the rest of the sphere. So if you have a sphere that's like this, and you have the line, the symmetry line in the center separating the sphere like this, for example, you don't want those ovals to be like this. That wouldn't be right. It's not, the distance here is too different. Instead, you want something that's very similar, where the lines are parallel, where the distance here is always the same. Okay, now let's say we've practiced this and we're really, really, really good. Now we can move on to the next step, and this is going to figure out where the jaw is. So we are going to add a couple more guides in here. So I'm going to draw a parallel line to this one right here. So depending on the angle of this one, the direction of the line is going to change. So if it's this line right here, then it'll be this one right there. If it's this one right here, then it'll be this one right there. What's important to note here with this line is that it must touch the bottom of this oval. So it will be like this. So something like this. So this one will be good. And so what we are doing this for is to find this distance here. So we want to find the distance of the radius. And what this is going to give us is going to give us the distance from this line here, which this line right here that we just drew, this is going to be where the tip of the nose lands. And once we add this distance to it right below, like this here is going to be where the chin is. So now that we know where the chin is going to actually be, let's find out how to draw it properly. So we know that this distance here from the center of this oval all the way down is going to be the size that we need to add to starting from this point here below. So we can do actually a parallel line to this. So we're going to start a parallel line from here. So as if it's starting from the eyebrow line right here, and we're going to go down parallel to this line right there, parallel, 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 until we have this distance here. So right about there. So you would know right now that the chin for the character would be right here. And from there, all we have to do is continue that line here that we started already to find the diameter of this oval. Keep going a little bit lower past this this line right here, past the nose line. And then once you have kind of like the width of the chin, something like this, and of course, you know, a wider chin is going to normally be a little bit more masculine, and a thinner one is going to be a little bit more feminine. But anyways, once you have this, all you have to do is connect the dots. So you just go all the way up here and connect the dots like this, so that you can close the shape. And from here, from this side, well, what you can do is just start from the side here and just go down like that, all the way to the chin. So there you go. Now you would have a very basic head shape. And then as you can see, it's fairly simple to draw it. There's not that many components to it. And drawing it in different angles is also not that complicated, as long as you're able to do this first step right there. And this is one of those things that initially seems daunting, it seems very technical, but it's actually very simple once you get the hang of it. So I'm going to do it for this one too. Right here we have the parallel line to the one here, splitting this sphere in half. So I'm going to take the same distance, so the same distance here, from here to the radius of this oval. And then we're going to keep going, start from the center here, the symmetry line, and then we're going to go down, go down, go down, the same distance here, and then once again. And this is going to give us our chin. Now, of course, if you don't want it to be so straight, you can curve it a little bit. But anyways, right now I'm just going to go ahead and do a straight line because it's a little bit simpler. And I will have the chin. The chin is also going to share this line here. So the line for the chin is going to be parallel to the lines that we've drawn so far. There we go. And again, from this other side, go past the line a little bit to find kind of like the corner of the jaw, and then connect the dots back to the jaw. And then we can round things up so that it's not too pointy. Close the shape right here, and we would have another head in a different perspective. And then once you have that, well, you can erase kind of like the sphere here inside, because we're not going to need that anymore. And you can erase kind of all the stuff that's inside the head. There we go. This is how you draw the shape of the head. And then with this, you can draw it in any angle. It works in any angle, of course. As you can see here, I'm going to draw this one right here, and then do a parallel line starting from the symmetry line on the face, straight down, and then double that line, straight down again. This is going to be the chin, and then extend this line to find the corner of the jaw, and then connect the dots. There we go. And then we can actually, again, close it like this. And we are done. So now we would have a face that is looking sideways, looking to the side. The last example that's a little different, to kind of go back to what I mentioned initially, is the front view. So if we have a head looking straight ahead, with no particular perspective. So it's not looking sideways or anything like that. It's just looking at us straight ahead like this. To represent the shape of the head, this particular feature, this particular shape that the head has, which is not a perfect circle, it kind of gets thinner and thinner as you go towards the forehead. To represent that, instead of just chopping this like this on both sides, as if they were parallel, like this example right here, instead of doing this, we are going to draw instead two ovals, but are really thin. Okay, let's see how close I am to the proper proportions. So 1/3, 1/3. I want to make sure that the oval is 2/3 high. So yeah, pretty close. As you can see here, it's the bottom of it, right here and right here. So it's almost spot on. So that would be the correct size for those ovals, and they would be, angled in a pretty good way. So if you're looking straight ahead, if you have a character that's looking straight ahead, you would look at making the ovals about this thin. So looking at proportions again, if we look at this right here and we split it in half, you know that the end of that ellipse right here would be about at a third of the distance for a half, for the 1/2 of the sphere. So 1/3, 2/3. So it would be about right here, right on it. And once you've drawn those ovals, then you need to kind of shave off a little bit of the head on both sides, because Remember that this is now chopped a little bit. So not completely, so it's not going to be like this, you know, like it's not going to be this one again, but it's going to be a little bit thinner. So we're going to lose a little bit of the shape of the sphere. So the sides are going to look as if they're a little bit pushed in, just like that. So not too much, but just a little bit. And then from there, we are going to take the bottom here of these ovals, and we're going to duplicate that distance here that it gives us. So this much below this line, so we know that the chin will land right about here. So we can make it a little bit wider, and then we can keep going, prolong these lines here to give us kind of like the side here for the jaw, and then we can bring those back and meet at the chin and make sure we have a nice smooth curve like that. All right. So now we would have a head in the front-facing position. And we know that this head should be, in theory, in good proportion. And now we would be ready to move on to the next step and add an extra feature onto the faces. And this would be kind of the line to help us figure out where the cheekbone is going to go. So we're going to take the side of the chin right here, and we're going to trace a curve all the way to the center of the oval right there. So it's a curve that's going to go about something like this. And it should give you something that's very similar to the mask of Boba Fett. So there we go. I'm going to do the same thing here on the side. So take the center of the oval and trace a curve all the way down to the side of the chin. So something like that. You can do it here too, like this. And for this one as well, chin's right here. There you go. So this is going to be, again, very simple, but this is going to be a guideline that helps us figure out a lot of the rest, a lot of the other features. Then finally, there's one more thing that we need to add before we're ready to slap on the different features. So the nose, the eyes, and all those things is going to be that line here that we already traced. So we already had the line. It's the one that lines up with the bottom of the oval right here. So we'll want to draw this on as well. And of course, the symmetry line, if we don't have it for some reason, if you don't have it yet, I recommend that you draw this first, one of the first things that you draw. But if for some reason you don't have it, make sure that you have it. And that last line right here. So the one that I'm drawing here, this is going to be where the tip of the nose is going to land on. So it's pretty important that we find where this is going to go. So there we are. This would give us everything that we need to be able to draw this head easily in different angles, from the front view, from the side view, top view, and anything in between. And like I said, it's a little bit daunting at first, but it gets really, really easy really quickly once you get the hang of it. The hard part really is getting good at drawing those circles and those ovals on the side, and making sure that the ovals are the proper size in comparison. So this is something that you should definitely practice all the time. It's definitely not one of those things that is fun to do if you're gonna sit down on the computer and just and do art. It's definitely not fun to just draw a bunch of ovals, but it's one of those things that's really easy to do on the go. So always carry kind of like a sketch pad or something to draw on, a pen, whatever it is. And then when you're on the go, when you're not doing something, when you're waiting for someone, when you're at a coffee shop, or just daydreaming really, this is the perfect time to practice those things. And it's only going to get easier with repetition. You really need to practice this stuff. Knowing how to do it's not gonna help. So it's dexterity intensive. So you really have to practice a lot. But once you do, I promise everything else just is really, really easy. And now we are going to move on to the proportions. So this is going to be fairly quick because I'll go over it once I cover each of the different facial features. But I am going to quickly give you an overview of where everything goes on the head. Actually going to be pretty simple. So we already have a number of guidelines here that are going to be essential to drawing everything else. So what we have thus far. So this is the full head. So I'm going to draw from the top to top of the head to the chin. So this is going to be the full height of the head. And we know that starting from the eyebrow line, so this one right here, we can split the rest in half. So we're going to have at the halfway point, this is going to be the nose, the tip of the nose. Here is going to be the eyebrow. And then at the bottom, we're going to have the chin. Now we can actually split this third in half, and we can actually split this last third here at the bottom in thirds again. And this is going to give us, right here, this is going to give us the top of the chin. And right here, we're going to have the mouth. And in between the eyebrow and the nose, we're going to have the bottom of the eye socket. All right, so far we have 1/3 right here. We have another third right here. And we're going to take another third, and this is going to give us the hairline. So the hairline is going to land right here, right at the third. Now this last one, the top of the head, not really relevant. It doesn't really matter because it's already there. The only one that's interesting, semi-interesting, is the hairline here. So this is not something that you'll need all the time. Some characters just are not going to have hairlines. So sometimes you'll have like bangs, or sometimes you're just going to be bald or whatever. But anyways, that hairline here would land right where this thing here, right at the line created by the top of the oval. And then we're going to take a look at everything else. So next down, the eyebrow. So we would have the eyebrow right on this line right here. And then we have, if we split this in half here, tip of the nose, and then we split it in half, this line right here, this would give us the bottom of the eye socket. So the eye would go somewhere in this area. So you would have the eye right here. Next, like I said, we have the nose. So that would be the tip of the nose. This is where the tip of the nose would be. And then finally, if we split this last segment here, this last third in 3 parts, so in thirds again, you would have the mouth right here. So this line here would be the line for the mouth. And right underneath here, you would have kind of like the upper portion of the chin, so the top of the chin. And then we'd have kind of like the lip starting right above that. And then the lip right on here. So there you go. So this is how you would find all the proportions for all the facial features. And then, of course, in the following chapters, we're going to take a look at how to draw them properly. There's one more thing that we need to take a look at, and it is how to place the ear. So the ear, again, we're going to take a look at how to draw it properly in the next chapters, but how to place it on here, fairly simple again. So this is going to be the size, like the diameter here is going to be the size of the ear as well. So what we're going to do is we start a little bit lower, and then at the line here at the top, this is where the ear is going to touch. So that's going to be kind of like the height of the ear, and the ear is going to go attach itself right down here where the oval ends. So you would have something like that. Starts like this, goes down, and then attaches itself. There we go. So that would be where the ear goes. And this is how you create a head and figure out the proper proportions, the proper locations for all the facial features. So very simple. Once again, only a couple things to worry about. I know as soon as you've drawn kind of like the base shape for the head, all you have to worry about is those 2 lower thirds. Those are the important ones right here. And there we go. So we are going to take a look at how to draw the ears next.